Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. It's a nice day here in New York today, and my papa came and mowed the lawn again. And so my dad, like me, loves animals, and they have a few stray cats that come to visit every so often for food. And was it yesterday or this morning? I think it was this morning. This morning, they saw little kittens in the back behind their barn. So, hey, Anna, did you know Grandpa has a cat with 2 babies behind their barn? So, anyways, my dad came to mow the lawn, and when he left, I have these shelter boxes for the strays outside my house. So he took one of my shelter boxes for and 2 babies. And so I was like, we need to trap them sooner than later because they are either going to get hit, eaten, or they're going to start reproducing. So hopefully they're not that old because I have a full house at the moment. So yes, good, Anna. And I will actually talk to you. I don't know if Anna's still here, but I was going to talk to her anyways, because this is a very important topic that is affecting a lot of kids, which we'll get into. So let me just say hi to some of you before we start. So Outlaw Trucker, good afternoon. Steph, Bash, Angel. Oh, what is this? It's sad how Perryton, Texas got hit last week with a possible F3 tornado. So far, count 3 dead, many injuries. It got hit hard. I think Outlaw, I think that's the one that I've been following. And just because I was going to cover it, and then I ended up doing other things, and then this case just came across. I saw a video and I was like, what is this? And then as I was researching, it's bigger than I ever thought it would be. So Angel, hello. Goldie, glad you could catch a live as well. Clover, hi. Cool Gamer, Kelsey, Queen Bella. Oh, never mind. Weird. I don't see who are mods on StreamYard. I only see it when I look at chat on my phone. It's bizarre. All right. Do we have anybody? Oh, nope. I'm all caught up. Okay. So thank you everybody for being here. I did clip one video from Betty from this morning. Her live was not interesting at all. I watched maybe the first hour and a half, and then I got doing other things. And then apparently she made it private, which makes sense because she had doxed her mom's phone number. And I'm not sure what other information, but I believe I only saw it the first time. Apparently she did it more than once. So I would have probably put the video on private as well, because that's no bueno. So this case that we're going to talk about today is of a high school kid who took his own life. Oh, nope, I didn't want to go there yet. Okay. So this is of, hey, Sinner, how's it going? And so he was a high school student who received a message over Twitter, and 6 hours later, he was dead. In my research for this, he's not the only person who has taken their own life as a result of what is being referred to as sextortion. And this just appeared in the news recently because those involved or responsible for this are Nigerians who are currently being held for extradition to the United States. So this case happened a year ago, just over a year ago. And in my journey looking at Jordan's case, I came across 2 others as well. So while I won't be looking at the other 2 victim stories specifically today, I'm only going to be looking at Jordan because that's what my main purpose was at the start of this, and then it kind of just took a path of its own. I am going to share 2 other victim stories as well. And so I'm glad that Anna decided not to stay. However, I will be having a conversation with her because she is at the age where social media is life. And there's a lot of catfishing that goes on. And this was an extreme, tragic form of catfishing. So with that, we are going to start with a video. And so this is from, let me just look back at my notes. So this video is somewhat recent. This is from March 3rd, 2023. The first 3 videos are newer, and then we're going to go back to when this started and then move our way back to the present now. CK Rohola, hello. Lisa, hi. Let me see if I missed anybody else coming in. Tiffany, hello. Lisa, thanks for being a member for a month. Look at you. I'm here homesick with a dang sneezy cold. Ugh. It's the time. And yesterday, I feel like I forgot to take, and here, I was just telling Betty about taking her allergy pill every day. And I feel like I might have forgotten to take mine, but I never do. Like that's what I do right before I go to my bedroom. So I don't know. I just feel stuffy, and it could be because it's nice out and, you know, we've had so much rain. But hey, Amy, glad you're listening. Private citizen and victim, hello. Yes, drive safe. Okay, so let's get started. And I'm sure I have my AC blasting, and I don't use headphones or a mic or anything. I'm, you know, bare bones here. So if it sounds like you're hearing wind blowing, let me know, and I can turn down the, you know, the strength a little bit. Oh, that's no good, Lisa. Yeah. I don't like runny noses. Like, I mean, I don't like being sick at all. However, if I had to choose between a stuffy nose and a runny nose, it would be a stuffy nose. Yes. All right, and I sound good. You don't hear anything. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so let's get started.
These are the faces of teenagers who died by suicide after being blackmailed over explicit pictures.
It's called sextortion, and it is exploding online and devastating young teens.
Target 8 investigator Susan Samples reports more than ever, criminals are convincing our kids to send X-rated pictures and threatening to post them unless the teen pays up.
Parents need to talk to their kids now.
Pauline Stewart has never been much for public speaking, but this California mom told me over Zoom she has no choice.
I have to, because I have to honor him by doing stuff to help other people, because I know that's what he would want me to do.
In late February last year, Stewart said goodnight to her son, 17-year-old Ryan Lass.
So again, this would have been February 2022, which is a month before Jordan took his life, which was in March. So again, for those of you just coming in, excuse me, this case, I'm focusing on Jordan DeMay. However, in my research and looking into this case goes back over a year. And the reason it's now becoming, I guess you could say, mainstream, is that those involved are awaiting extradition to the United States. So I have it to the way I'm presenting this, and hopefully it all goes well. But we're starting at when this occurred, which was, this case was in February 2022.
He was his normal self.
But 4 hours later, around 2 a.m., the straight-A student, second-degree black belt, future Eagle Scout, set to start college in the fall, died by suicide.
They had put so much pressure on him that he was so afraid that this was going to ruin his life that he didn't think that he had any choice but to take his life.
A criminal posing as a girl Last's own age had connected with the teen on social media earlier that very same day and convinced him she was interested.
They sent him a picture and asked for one in return. And when he did, within seconds of getting it, they demanded $5,000 from him.
Stewart says her son is one of at least 13 young people nationwide known to have died by suicide after sextortion, including West Michigan. If you need evidence...
Yes, Lisa, they are young men from Nigeria. Yes.
That sextortion is threatening kids right here. This is it. These are search warrants filed in the court that covers rural and suburban Kent County. Target 8 has put out warnings about sextortion before, but it was a recent routine inspection of search warrants that convinced us we needed to talk about it again. According to search warrants, police in Kent County alone over 3 months investigated at least a dozen sextortion cases. Among the victims, an 11-year-old girl, a 14-year-old girl, a 15-year-old boy. It's happening through Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. One victim paid $850 through Apple Pay, another $300 by Venmo.
An offender wants money, they want gift cards, they want financial gain.
Homeland Security Investigations says the scammers, often based in West African countries, are primarily targeting boys between 14 and 17, but girls are victimized too, including a 9-year-old in West Michigan. The message to parents from Homeland Security agents and Pauline Stewart.
Let those kids know that if they make a mistake, you're there for them no matter what.
If they're not comfortable telling you, make sure they identify now a trusted person they can tell. Stewart says her son left a note apologizing for falling for the scam. He had always been trusting, she says, kind and loving.
Even in his note, he asked us to tell his friends how much he loved them. He let us all know, me, his dad, his brother. We meant everything to him, and it was the same for us.
If this happens to your child, experts say first, remember the predator is to blame, not your kid and not you. Get help from police or from the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Paying rarely stops the threats. Report the predator to the social media platform. Block the person, but don't delete the messages. Police may need them. But the number one tip right now, talk to your kids.
Okay, so that is just an intro video of one of 3 boys who from the United States who have taken their lives due to what is known as sextortion. And the next story, oh, I'm on the wrong thing. The next video is going to go into the second 15-year-old. And this I did not put it on, so I apologize. I thought I had a date for this video, but I do not.
If you're thinking of sharing a naked picture of yourself with someone, don't. There's a real good chance it could end badly, very badly. This family is mourning the death of their teenage son who killed himself after he got caught up in a sextortion plot, all after sharing a photo.
All right, guys, we're out here.
Riley Bassford was a typical 15-year-old who loved the outdoors. Last month, he joined Facebook. On the day he signed up, he got a friend request, which appeared to come from an attractive young college student who said her name was Megan.
Dirty blonde, flowing hair.
So, Lisa, I'm only focusing on one today. There's more than three. However, in looking into Jordan's case, I found that we're going to get into it, but there are thousands of teenagers affected by this. So we're going to get into that, though, a little bit later in the stream.
Hair, sundress, beautiful.
She wooed Riley into sending her explicit photos of himself. His father, Darren.
I was a 15-year-old boy at one time, and, you know, you get curious, and if some beautiful lady is, you know, texting you.
But it was all a fake. Megan did not exist. The teenager was being catfished. What followed was a barrage of messages demanding $3,500, or else his photos would be posted all over social media for all the world to see. Cyber expert Parry Aftab says Riley was a victim of a sextortion plot, a crime that is increasingly targeted at young people.
Sex crimes against kids have doubled since the pandemic. Our kids are online.
He just lost it.
And so I saw in the comments, Goldie says, I mean, the world has always kind of been messed up, but since social media, it's 100 times worse. I agree, because I feel that it's much easier to not only scam people regardless of what the scam is, it's a lot easier to reach more people in a smaller amount of time. And what I found interesting about this video is that that woman had stated since the pandemic, it's gotten even worse. And which makes sense because people were stuck home with social media, video games. I mean, even some of the video games, you can talk to people on, you know, some of these gaming stations. You don't know who they are. So it's important. And, you know, when I was looking into this story, I was like, every parent and teenager, preteen, tween needs to know that these dangers are out there. And just because the picture shows someone your age, it doesn't mean that that's who they are. And that is what we call catfishing. Catfishing happens a lot. And I saw someone in chat had said on dating sites, absolutely. So, you know, it's really important.
It's his mind of embarrassment and fear and scared. And I mean, they kept hounding him.
The blackmail threats started at noon. Just 2 hours later, Riley, apparently overwhelmed with embarrassment, went up to his room and shot himself to death. His mother, Mary.
It breaks my heart that I lost him. Absolutely. Like, waking up without him is brutal.
His friends and family held a celebration of life at the Marquette River near his home in upstate Potsdam, New York. They say they want their son's story out there as a warning to parents and teens everywhere.
And I hope that you have peace and comfort. We love you so much.
An investigation is ongoing to find whoever threatened Riley, but police say this is a very difficult kind of crime to solve. Riley's family is setting up a scholarship.
Okay. And The next video is where I introduced to you Jordan DeMay. And Jordan was from Michigan. And he received a message on Twitter. 6 hours later, he was dead. So I am focusing more so on Jordan and what sextortion is in general. However, there are so many stories like his. As I was going, looking online and looking things up, it's a rabbit hole I didn't have time to go down today. But there's more. This is just one story of thousands out there.
Jordan. He was an all-American teenager, the homecoming king, beloved by his classmates. Now, a small town in Michigan is mourning Jordan DeMay's death. He killed himself, the victim of a vicious online sextortion plot.
This is one of those cases that I will remember the rest of my life.
It happened when Jordan received a message on his Twitter account that appeared to come from a beautiful teenager who said she wanted to be his friend. She even asked him to send her a naughty photo. He was suspicious and even asked if it was a scam. Assured it wasn't, he sent the photo. Right away, Jordan realized he was being blackmailed. They threatened to send the photo to his family and all his friends at school.
He had to get money. They told him $1,000. He said, I don't have that. How much do you have? $300. We'll get rid of everything, send that $300. So he sent it.
It didn't stop. The pressure kept up to send more money.
He said, you win. I'm going to kill myself. And they're like.
And that is true. There are text messages that show the dialogue between Jordan and these scammers. Thank you to those of you who are just coming in. For those of you who are not aware what we're talking about, please know that this may be disturbing to some viewers and or listeners. And this is a case of Jordan DeMay. It came across my YouTube feed and I watched one video and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to look into this more. And as I was looking into it, there's so much information out there. To pick and choose what I chose for this presentation was difficult. However, I'm hoping that it's not only informative, but eye-opening, because while I knew these things were out there, coming from a smaller town, you don't think it may happen. Yeah, it can happen to any of us. So thank you for being here. And I apologize if I missed anyone. I was on top chat, not all messages. So if I'm missing hello to you, I apologize. Thank you for being here. I did realize I was on top chat when I went to change the viewer mode. So if I didn't say hi, and thank you for being here.
Go ahead.
So they actually responded when he said that he was going to kill himself. They responded, go ahead.
Yes.
From the time Jordan.
So Tiffany, the last two clips are from Inside Edition. And if you do a Google search for Jordan DeMay or Riley Bassford, you're going to come up with, there's tons out there.
Jordan got the message until his death. Just 6 hours had passed. His story is eerily similar to another sextortion that took place last year in Potsdam, New York. 15-year-old Riley Bassford got sextorted the day he joined Facebook. The blackmailers demanded $3,500 or they'd spread his provocative photos around town. His parents, Darren and Mary, spoke to Inside Edition.
I was a 15-year-old boy at one time, and you get curious, and if some beautiful lady is texting you.
But just like Jordan DeMay, it became too much. Riley shot himself.
He just lost his mind of embarrassment and fear and scared, and I mean, they kept hounding him.
Sheriff Greg Zybert has a message for teens.
This can happen to you. And if it does, you need to reach out. It's not the end of the world. It's not worth taking your life.
The investigation to find the extortionist.
Okay, and as I said, they were able to find the extortionists. And give me 1 second. We will get to that momentarily. So the next, let me just make sure okay, there we go. I just wanted to make sure I was on the okay, so again, Jordan DeMay, and he took his own life on March 25th, 2022. And yes, Nigeria. And the reason this story has made its way back into, or I'm not sure if it was ever in mainstream media. However, the clip was from Good Morning America that I saw last night. And after watching it, I knew I was going to do this story. I just didn't know where it was going to lead me. And that this has been over a year long of investigation to get those involved. And I was able to find a picture of those who are responsible. They are on the bottom of this slide. I was torn whether to put their photos on this slide because they're scum. However, they're part of the story. So I just gave them a little section of the slide. And so you have Samuel Ogashi, 22, Samson Ogashi, 20. Yes, they are brothers. And Ezekiel Ajahem Robert, 19. And those are the three men, I guess. I say young adults, but men who extorted money from this boy. And when it wasn't enough, the shame overtook him, and 6 hours later, he was gone. So, yes. And that's why I thought it was important to include that initial video of the mom who said, let your kids know that no matter how awful it is, they need to tell you, because embarrassment and shame are temporary, whereas, excuse me, taking one's life is permanent. So that's why I'm glad that my niece chose not to stay here and listen today, but know that I am going to be having a conversation with her. And my sister is well aware of this as well. She's very in tune to the dangers that happen. However, you know, sometimes teenagers are like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, we were a kid once too. Granted, we did not have social media like we do now, but we still, you know, there were still creeps back then. There's just, it seems, an influx of creeps because of social media and advancements in technology. So yes, Beer Can, thank you for stopping in. It is sad. I'm just going to go up and chat a little bit so I can see. Oh, Steph, that's great. And actually, let me go over to StreamYard because I think it's easier for me to look at comments over here. I agree. Every school needs to start having real discussions with their students on the danger and consequences of engagement with this kind of thing. And yeah, I agree, Sinner. It is taboo. You think of, and so interestingly enough, I'm glad I saw that comment, because when I was trying to find an introduction slide to present. When I looked up Sextortion, all of the images included female representations. Not one that I could find, and granted, I didn't spend hours trying to look for one. Not one of them had a representation for men. And that is another reason why I chose to do this, because we know that this happens to girls and young girls and women. Yet in this case, it's also, as we see, 3 boys or young men posing as a female to extort money from teenagers. So, let's see. Yeah, I agree, Lisa. You can grab a picture of anyone. I mean, it could be, oh no, a Mormon boy in Utah last year. So that's, it seems like it's more than, I agree, Robin. Catfishing. I mean, catfishing is one thing. I think catfishing is more like in person, so to speak, but this extortion is, I mean, it's global. It's scary. Yes, and thank you, Lisa, for sending that link. For if you are a victim of any catfishing scam, please. And all of the links that I am presenting, all of the articles that we'll talk about, everything will be in the description after the live. Okay. So let me go to... All right, so we're going to start with this story. This is from June 15th, 2023. So this was just from 5 days ago. And this gives a little bit of an update / background, and then a little bit more of Jordan's story. And then we're going to go back to when it all started.
We're going to turn now to the death of a high school football player. His family says he was driven to take his own life after falling victim to social media sextortion scam. Well, Reeve has that story. Good morning, Will.
Hey, good morning, George. It's unfathomable. A teenager driven to suicide by a pernicious and pervasive scam. Now the teen's parents are speaking out about their tragedy.
Overnight, the parents of a Michigan teenager speaking out about a growing social media scam they said led to the death of their 17-year-old son.
3 people from across the world came into my house that night while I was sleeping and murdered Jordan. And I had zero chance to stop it.
Jordan DeMay and Jennifer Buta opening up about so-called sextortion scams, which trick teens into sending explicit photos of themselves online, only to be blackmailed. Their son Jordan becoming a victim of the scheme, later taking his own life.
Jordan was this outgoing.
So, Jeannie, thank you for sharing that. This happened to my brother. Luckily, he called me and told me. He was freaking out. I told him it's a scam and to block them and it will go away. And thank God he finally listened to me. Yes. And that is one thing that I've seen in some of the reading I did, is that a lot of victims that fall for these scams believe that it's the end all be all. And what it is that if you ignore them or don't feed into their threats, they will find someone else that they can scam and do the same thing too. I mean, it's really sad that these people have nothing better to do with their time than to scam people out of money. And, these tragic results occur.
Young man, he had a smile that was contagious. He loved playing sports.
He was handsome. He was popular. He was the prom king.
The beloved high school football player was scammed into sending explicit photos of himself to who he thought was a teenage girl on Instagram. But prosecutors allege he was actually speaking to...
Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to point out. In the initial story, which again, this was March 25th, 2022, is when Jordan took his life. This video is from June 15th, 2023. So just over a year from when it happened. The initial report said it was Twitter. This report is now saying that indeed Instagram.
To Samuel Agoshi, a grown man from Nigeria, pretending to be a young woman to produce a sexually explicit image of Jordan with the intention of using the image to blackmail him.
He drained his bank accounts as much as he could.
On March 25th, 2022, prosecutors say Agoshi demanded $1,000 from the team.
And so this is what really gets me, is that they're not seeking, $100, $200. They're going for the extreme, $1,000. Those amounts that they know that people probably don't just have laying around. Some people probably have that much in their checking account. I never do. So I just find it very, I don't even know the word to explain, bold, like just arrogant.
Writing under the fake account, Danny Roberts. I have screenshot all your followers and tags, can send this nudes to everyone. All you've to do is cooperate with me and I won't expose you.
So this was an actual text, and this is how, and again, some scammers could have very good English. However, in those messages that I've seen, sometimes I'll see them, but normally they have the weird message, the email message, so I know just to block it. But what I found interesting here too is that they're using text talk. So they're trying to use some of that, like you are instead of your, they're using your. And for me, the way that this is written is very strange. And the way that this reporter read it, it almost sounded a little bit broken. And that's where I would become skeptical. But again, I'm an adult. And so I have, the ability to possibly see these things better. But again, if anybody sees this, you start freaking out. Like Jeannie said, some people, they may not have anyone to call. They may not call anybody. So thank goodness, Jeannie, that, your brother did call you, because like you said, you don't know what may have happened. They told my brother she was 15 and going to turn him into the police. My brother is 30. At first she said she was 22. Then she said she's 15 and turning him in. He was so upset. That is awful. And so one thing I learned in my teaching, and this was actually this year, I'm not technology savvy at all. I know the basics and I learn rather well. However, I didn't realize that there's a thing called airdropping. And for those of us who don't know what airdropping is, you can take a photo or you can be shared a photo, anything like that. And then you can airdrop this photo to anyone within a certain range, and they will receive it. They do not have to be one of your contacts. They do not have to be one of your friends. They just have to have those settings on in their phone. And I learned about that this past year when I was teaching, because that actually happened at the school I taught at. A not very becoming photo was shared of a student, and everyone in the school received it who had their settings on, because this person who shared it decided to airdrop it to everyone within that range. So, yes. Yes, Robin. And like I said, I had no idea. And so I was being schooled by my students, and thank goodness they trusted me enough and respected me enough to show me these things, because I was like, what? They're not even in your contacts? And they're like, no, you just hit a button and it goes to every within, as far as you can go. And I was like, that is awful. They do it a lot with videos of fights so that more people can get them sooner. It's very, there's just so much out there. Yes. Oh, Robin, I've heard of sextortion happening a lot in the online gay communities. They target young men who may not have come out of the closet. What a horrible thing to do. That is, yeah. And that's, that is awful. And so these predators, because that's what they are, they're going into these communities where they know there are young kids, those who are vulnerable in some way, and they're just hoping that they pick the right person to scam. And I can't imagine what these families are going through, what these kids went through, what anybody goes through when these things happen. I remember, and this is not comparable by any means, when I was in grad school, when I lived just outside Philadelphia, I got a phone call saying that someone stole my identity. And I was like, I don't believe you. I'm going to call you back, because it was my bank at the time. I was like, I don't believe what you're telling me. I'm going to call the bank myself to find out what's really going on. Long story short, someone actually did steal my identity. And this was back in 2003, 2004-ish. So 20 years ago. And indeed, someone had stolen my identity and used my identity to buy big screen TVs all over the United States. And that's what got my bank company to flag my account, because one of the purchases was made in Nevada and then California. And I haven't been past Kansas in my life, that line. So I've been to Oklahoma, Texas, North Dakota, South Dakota, but I have not been past that Midwest line. So thankfully, I had the wits about me to call my bank back, because I didn't believe it. And I just think of how many people get those phone calls and they're like, oh yeah, it's my bank calling me. Let me give them my information to make sure that they get everything straightened out. And then it turns out that it wasn't your bank. It was some scammer who was just saying they were, in order to get your information. Like, it's awful. Awful. I agree. Inhumane assholes. Yes. I agree, Jeannie. And thank you, Robin, for sharing that, because that, and that's the thing. There's just so much in this world, and you can only talk about a part of it. So it's just, it's everywhere. And there's just not enough time in a day to cover all of it.
He's believing that all these images are going to his friends' mothers and his friends, and it just threw him into a tailspin.
2 hours after the initial threat, Jordan wrote, "I'm kill myself right now because of you." The scammer's response, "Good, do that fast."
And this is where
or I'll make you.
This is where, so this Danny Roberts, this fake account that these people are using, this kid says, I'm going to take my life. And then they respond, good, do that fast or I'll make you do it. Like, I'm going to be following this because the perpetrators are awaiting extradition to the United States. And I hope that they get what they deserve. And I hope that they have a long, miserable life ahead of them once they get here. Because this is awful. And I've said awful, I don't know how many times, because I'm at a loss for words.
Do it. Moments later, Jordan died by suicide. Last year, the FBI said there were roughly 7,000 reports of sextortion online.
And so this was, they said last year, so I'm assuming these statistics are from 2022. So 7,000 sextortion scams reported. We don't know how many scams were not reported,
resulting in more than a dozen suicides. Authorities stressing that while any child could be targeted, 14 to 17-year-old boys are most often victimized.
And so this was very eye-opening to me because, as I said prior, it seems, I would think girls, right? Females, those would be the most targeted. However, with the reports and the statistics coming in, boys ages 14 to 17 are the most often victimized. And that to me was surprising, first off. And this is another reason why I wanted to talk about this, because this is happening to those we wouldn't necessarily be in tune to.
Now, Jordan's parents are helping other families know of the potential dangers about what children are exposed to online and how to prevent it from happening.
Having open conversations about the dangers of social media in general and specifically sextortion. Let your kids know. If it does happen, go to a trusted adult and let them know that this is happening and get their help.
Meta said in a statement, quote, "No family should ever have to experience a tragedy like this. We want teens to have a safe experience on our apps, and we've built safeguards and technology to help combat any dangerous activity. We encourage all teens to report potentially harmful content or accounts in our apps if they feel unsafe." They went on to tout a tool for users to regain control of their pictures that's called Take It Down. Guys.
What a sad.
Right. And for those of you who may not know, Meta is Mark Zuckerberg, who is the owner of Facebook, who did purchase Instagram as well. So Meta runs not only Facebook, but also Instagram. So that's why Facebook gave Meta gave a statement because they own both platforms. Okay, so now we're going to go back, and then we're going to work our way back to present day. So this article that I have is from March 29th, 2022, and this is 4 days after Jordan took his own life. So for those of you just coming in, thank you for being here. If I haven't said hello. We're going to be focusing on a 17-year-old boy, Jordan DeMay, who was a victim of a sextortion scam by 3 young adults, I should say, in Nigeria. And it has come to the forefront again because said perpetrators are awaiting extradition to the United States. Zuckerberg is an alien, possibly. So Student was victim of sextortion hours before suicide. A student in Michigan who died by suicide last week was a victim of sextortion. While the Marquette County Sheriff's Office does not typically release information about suicides, this information is being shared with permission from the parents of 17-year-old Jordan DeMay. And there is his obituary or service announcement, I should say. Deputies responded to DeMay's home in Marquette Township at 7:40 a.m. Friday for the report of an apparent suicide. Investigators said it is believed that DeMay was being extorted through Instagram over pictures that he had taken of himself. Jordan was put under extreme pressure by the perpetrator to pay money in exchange for the pictures not being sent to his family and Instagram followers. These events are believed to have occurred in less than 6 hours. As the investigation continues, the Marquette County Sheriff's Office and DeMay's family said they hope this will assist the community in their healing. Investigators also said they hope this will educate others and spur courageous conversations about internet safety. If you or a loved one are in crisis, call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room immediately. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-TALK. The FBI provides the following tips to protect you and your children online. First, be selective about what you share online, especially your personal information and passwords. If your social media accounts are open to everyone, a predator may be able to figure out a lot of information about you or your children. Second, be wary of anyone you encounter for the first time online. Block or ignore messages from strangers. Be aware that people can pretend to be anything or anyone online. Videos and photos are not proof that a person is who they claim to be. Be suspicious if you meet someone on a game or app and they ask you to start talking to them on a different platform. Encourage your children to report suspicious behavior to a trusted adult. If you believe you or someone you know is the victim of sextortion, and then here is contact your local FBI field office, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, which I believe is the website Lisa dropped earlier, or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Do not delete anything before law enforcement is able to review it, and tell law enforcement everything about the encounters you had online. It may be embarrassing, but it is necessary to find the offender. In 2021, the IC3 received over 18,000 sextortion-related complaints with losses over $13.6 million. This number reflects all types of sextortion reported, not just this particular scheme. So the next we're going to look at, there is a video, and this is from March 29th, 2022. So again, 4 days after Jordan tragically died. And I had started this, so we didn't have to watch the advertisement, but okay, so while that is just playing a little bit. All right, so we're going to watch this. Oh, of course, I forgot to put the volume back on.
Term to you tonight, law enforcement wants you to know how you can protect your loved ones.
TV6's Vinny Lavia brings us an in-depth look at sextortion to show you how you can avoid falling victim.
It could be demanding money, or it could be demanding more explicit photos.
According to the FBI Washington field office, cases of sextortion have been increasing. The Bureau's Internet Crime Complaint Center received over 18,000 reports in 2021, with victims losing over $13.6 million. Sextortion begins when a predator, usually pretending to be a young girl, befriends a young person, usually a man.
And it's interesting that they say, to me, it's interesting that they say that the scammers pretend to be a female and not a male. So that's where, again, of course, it seems, I mean, I'm guessing they believe men are more vulnerable or apt to respond. I don't know. It's just very interesting to me.
And online.
And the idea is that the predator will convince the young person to produce some sort of explicit video or image. They then put pressure on the young person to continue to provide that material by threatening exposure.
In cases like Jordan DeMay's, the predator asked for money, but sextortion never has to get to that point, let alone happen at all. The Marquette County Chief Assistant Prosecutor says it's never a good idea to message someone you have not met in person. Always be mindful of friend requests you receive on social media.
And somebody will make a duplicate profile of an existing one. So you might get a second friend request from somebody you're already friends with, and you don't realize that it's not your friend, it's somebody else.
And that has actually happened a lot to me on Facebook. And a lot of times, like, I've been hacked sometimes, and someone, one of my friends will text me instead of sending me a message on Facebook and say, hey, did you create a new account? And I'll be like, no. So then I know, crap, I need to change my password. I need to let everybody know that not to accept a friend request from me, because it's not me, it's a scam. They're trying to get information. And I don't think I've had it happen on Instagram or Twitter. I'm not really on any social media anymore because I'm on YouTube most of the time, but I don't believe I've ever had it happen on Instagram. Twitter, I don't really use that much. I just go on there every so often, but Facebook, it definitely has happened more times than I can count.
And then they start talking with you.
This is one of the many ways a predator could try to exploit someone. That person has power once they have explicit photos. If it gets to this point, Michigan State Police Detective Sergeant Jonathan Walden says you should immediately reach out to someone you trust. This could be a parent, teacher, counselor, friend, or police officer.
The main thing you got to do, though, if you get stuck in a situation like this, is talk to somebody. If this person's doing it to you, they're more than likely doing it to somebody else.
If you are a victim of sextortion, the most important thing to remember is that you are not alone. Reporting your situation is the best way out, even if it seems embarrassing to say something. It could save your life and help law enforcement catch a predator. Vinny Lavia, TV6 News.
We have more information about what kids and teens need to know about sextortion, along with suicide prevention resources on uppermichigansource.com and the TV6 and Fox UP mobile news app.
Well, happening now, a UP judge is taking...
Okay, so let me move that. Okay, so Lisa says, I had my first Insta account totally hacked by half-naked Russians. It sucked. I even had my ex-hub call me and tell me to check it out. That was weird. I mean, at least you were on terms that he, called to let you know that this was happening. That's got to be really, these people have way too much time on their hands. And I'd be curious to know, I mean, obviously looking at those statistics, over $13.5 million, yet, I'm curious to know how many scammers there are. I'm sure there's more than we can count. But also, how much money are they really getting out of what they're trying to get? Like, what percentage are they actually successful in getting? So this next one is from April 19th, 2022. So just about a month after Jordan took his life. And I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. So this one is FBI in Arkansas warns of rise in sextortion schemes that target young boys. And while this article is not related to Michigan, where Jordan passed away, this had a lot of really good information in it that I wanted to talk about. And I am going to zoom in so that you guys can see this better. So again, this was April 2022. FBI offices around the country are noting an increase in the number of sextortion cases targeting boys on the internet, social media sites, and gaming apps by criminals who impersonate teen girls. Authorities say sextortion schemes involve con men or professional manipulators who target individuals through social media and gain their trust. By combing through social media accounts, they can glean a wealth of information about their victims, including lists of family and friends and other personal information. After gaining a victim's trust by exchanging information and learning more personal details, perpetrators will persuade the victim to exchange intimate photos with the person they believe is someone with a romantic interest in them. Once that occurs, demands for money soon follow, accompanied by threats to expose the victim if they don't follow through. But authorities say, in almost all cases, the demands escalate as the perpetrators demand more money, more photos, or both. Last month, according to news reports, Jordan DeMay, a 17-year-old senior at a Michigan high school, died by suicide within 6 hours of being targeted. News reports said it was learned that DeMay, who was described as a good student who excelled in basketball and football and planned to attend college next fall, was a victim of sextortion when just a few hours after his death, a friend of his received one of his compromising photos and went to DeMay's parents with the information. The FBI reported that in 2021, its Internet Crime Complaint Center received more than 18,000 sextortion-related complaints, with losses of more than $13.5 million. Assistant U.S. Attorney Kristen Bryant has prosecuted more than 100 child exploitation cases during her 10 years with the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Arkansas. In addition to sextortion schemes, she prosecutes cases of child pornography, sex trafficking, and other matters involving the exploitation of children and adults. She said she has noticed a rise in such schemes. As people become more bold on the internet and bullies have deceived an anonymity through the use of avenues that allow people to mask their identities, it's definitely something we're seeing rise. What makes such cases more difficult than others to investigate is the reluctance of victims to come forward. A lot of times your victims don't want to come forward because they're embarrassed or ashamed, especially children. They're scared of getting in trouble with their parents or at school, or they're afraid their friends are going to find out, all of which makes them the perfect victim. Connor Hagan, a public information officer for the Little Rock FBI field office, said sextortion schemes aren't a new phenomena, but said the current trend targeting teen boys is a disturbing development. We see sextortion schemes all the time, and it runs gamut. This one is targeting young males, and instead of it being for a predator's gratification, it is in fact a financial incentive scheme. Hagan said once perpetrators gain the trust of their victims to the point of sending compromising photos or videos, the hook is set and the trap sprung. Victims are told they must send money or sometimes banking information to keep the images from being made public. We call it sextortion, but what it is in fact is 100% blackmail. If you don't give me money, I will post this on Facebook or email it to your family, email it to your church. It's a big deal. Hagan said it is imperative that victims come forward because where there is one victim, there are often others. We understand it's embarrassing that you're a victim of a crime and it's tough to come forward. But if you do come forward, we are able to save countless other victims that no one knows anything about. FBI Special Agent Aaron Hurst, who specializes in investigating sex crimes, said he believes the current wave of sextortion crimes target teen boys for one specific reason. Even more than girls, boys will go to virtually any length to avoid anyone finding out they've been victimized in this way. Hurst and Hagen said parents should monitor the websites their children visit and the apps they use. If social media are open to everyone, offenders can easily learn personal details about parents and their children and use that information to their advantage. Even more important, they said, is making children aware of the dangers. The reality is that we've got kids running around with high-powered computers in their pockets, and if parents aren't aware of what's going on, their kids can get in serious trouble before they know it. If a child becomes a victim, it's important that whoever has that child's trust, a parent, caregiver, relative, or other trusted adult, take some specific actions. That is a huge step, and it's not a time for judgment. It's a time for saving. Oh, sorry. It is a time for saving, but it's also a time for saying, thank you for sharing that. Now let's get the FBI on the phone. And we'll put an FBI agent out there very quickly to get this taken care of. Hagen said it's also important to preserve all evidence, even though the impulse may be to delete the offending material. Because of embarrassment, sometimes kids will want to delete those conversations to block the bad guy, if you will. What we ask is, come forward to us and don't touch anything. Don't respond to anything, but come forward and let us review whatever information was shared and we'll handle it. The FBI also advises people to be selective about online sharing, be wary of anyone they meet online, and block or ignore messages from strangers. Particularly important is to be suspicious if someone asks you to start communicating on a different platform than the one where the initial contact was made. That's a huge red flag. If you meet someone on a gaming app and they ask you to move over to Kik or WhatsApp or another platform, there's a reason for that, and it's not a good one. So that article, I very much appreciated. I'm actually going to put this link in the chat because I feel for those of us who are not aware of what's happening or want to share this information, that is a very good article to use. And oh my gosh, Lisa, really? Internet cafes full of men just hitting the US hard 24/7. See, and that's the thing, like this could be like a whole dissertation. It's just I was overwhelmed, to say the least, with the amount of information out there and the amount of cases that I won't be able to talk about. It sounds like many YouTubers, but using law to CPS. That is true. So when you think about, you know, those things, you know, oh, I'll call CPS or I'll call the law on you if you don't do this. Like, people just need to find a hobby or something else to do with their time. Oh, hi, burnt butt hairs. Yes, you are late. That's okay. You're here now, as Steph said. Yes, I agree, Lisa. If it seems too good to be true, it usually is. Yes. Hey, Wise Angel, how are you? Okay, so the next one, let me just make sure that yes, okay. I just have to look at my slides because I don't want to go out of order. Okay. I'm just going to get up my next few stories. Okay. Okay, I'm on the right track. Okay, so the next article, let me add it back to the stream. So this brings us forward. So this brings us to, yes, this brings us to current day. So this was May 3rd, 2023. So just about a month and a half ago, this story started to be brought back into mainstream media. Why it took me this long for it to come across my newsfeed, I won't understand, but I'm glad that it did. So parents of teenager who died by suicide after a sextortion scam urged tough conversations with children. And again, this was from May 3rd, 2023. And we are going to watch this video if I can get it to work.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
And now to an urgent parenting alert ahead of.
Come on. All right. Well, we'll just wait a minute to see if that decides to work. Hey, Kathy, how's it going? Okay, we may not be able to watch this because it's being uncooperative. So we'll just read it. So Wise Angel says, I was once in what I thought was a Garth Brooks fans forum, got chatting to who I thought were him and his team. When they started to pressure me to join Hangouts, I shut the convo down. Good idea. Yeah, and it just seems like these people are just doing all kinds of awful things in order to get money. It's awful. You know what? Let me try it this way. Sometimes I have to unshare and then reshare for it to work. Nope. Okay, we're just going to read it. So the parents of a teenager who died by suicide are urging others to have tough conversations about sextortion scams, saying that frank communication could save other teenagers' lives. Jordan DeMay, a 17-year-old from Marquette, Michigan, took his own life on March 25th, 2022, after 3 Nigerian men pretended to be a female online and coerced DeMay to send a nude photo of himself, according to U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, Mark Totten. When he did, the 3 men allegedly demanded $1,000 from him. DeMay told the men he was going to take his own life due to their mistreatment, and they responded, quote, good, and, quote, enjoy your miserable life, end quote, Totten said. Jordan's smile could light up any room, his mother, Jennifer Buddha, told reporters at a press conference with federal law enforcement officials on Wednesday. Jordan's charm and beautiful smile were contagious, drawing people to him wherever he went and leaving a lasting impression on everyone he met. Buddha said she can't imagine what was going through her son's head that night because of the senseless act against her son. When we were informed that Jordan was potentially a victim of an internet scam called Sextortion via Instagram, there was never a hesitation in our minds to share his story. We wanted everyone to be aware about sextortion and have those tough conversations with their families, so if it did happen to them, they knew to talk to someone. 3 men, Samuel Ogashi, 22, Samson Ogashi, 20, and Ezekiel Ajehem Robert, 19, all of Lagos, Nigeria, allegedly posed as a girl on Instagram and interacted with hundreds of victims, including DeMay. After DeMay's death, the FBI opened an investigation, which they said led them to the 3 men in Nigeria. There is no lawyer listed for these men. This was a multifaceted investigation that involves identifying dozens of victims following the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the Sextortion is on the internet. Let me reread that. This was a multifaceted investigation that involves identifying dozens of victims following the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the Sextortion is on the internet. Jim Taraska, the FBI special agent in charge of the Detroit field office, said. The 3 men are in the process of being extradited to the United States, according to federal officials. Sextortion, according to the FBI, is a crime in which people adopt fake identities online, coerce victims to send nude photos of themselves, and then try and get the victims to pay money in exchange for a promise not to post the photos. Over the past year, law enforcement agencies have received over 7,000 reports related to the online sextortion of minors, resulting in at least 3,000 victims, primarily boys, according to the FBI. More than a dozen sextortion victims were reported to have died by suicide, according to the Department of Justice. Younger victims in particular may feel ashamed of their actions, but they aren't to blame. Sextortion cases are on the rise, with perpetrators all over the world attempting to exploit minors. It's a disturbing trend that we've been seeing across the country, and that, for that matter, internationally, the culprits aren't just in Nigeria. They are like many cyber scams, cyber-based scams throughout the world from other countries. Some are right here in the United States. So it is an opportunity for people to make money. Americans lost $10.3 billion to internet scams in 2022, marking the highest losses in 5 years. That is exceptional amount of money. Okay, so Wise Angel says, I took screenshots and URL and Facebook links, etc., and emailed his management company who had the whole thing shut down. That is, yeah. I mean, great thinking too. Okay, so this is from Maynard again, and this gets into the perpetrators. And I thought I had all of these advertisements played through, but I did not. Oh, all right. There we go.
One Nigerian man has been charged in the March 25th, 2022 suicide death of Jordan DeMay. Now, again, we've covered the story extensively. DeMay was a 17-year-old Marquette senior high school student. And TV6's Vinny Lavia is here now to take us through what we know about today's announcement from the federal court system. Vinny.
Yes, Cody. 3 Nigerian men in total have been charged in a sextortion ring. 22-year-old Samuel Ogashi is the one directly charged in DeMay's suicide death last year. The U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan spoke about the unsealed indictment today. We do want to warn you, some details in the story you may find disturbing.
All right, and so again, as I've had up this entire live with the trigger warning, again, some of these details may be disturbing to some viewers and or listeners.
A federal grand jury has alleged the following. The 3 defendants, Samuel Ogashi, Samson Ogashi, and Ezekiel Robert, purchased multiple hacked social media accounts.
Mark Totten, the U.S. Attorney for Michigan's Western District, unsealing an indictment against 3 Nigerian men today. They are all charged in a sextortion ring.
When sextortion occurs online, the perpetrator often pretends to be someone else and then persuades the victim to send compromising photos or perhaps engage in compromising conversation. The perpetrator then threatens to disclose those photos or the conversation if the victim doesn't provide either money or further sexual favors.
The indictment says one of the hacked accounts was on Instagram using the persona Danny Roberts. This account got DeMay to send a sexually explicit photo. According to the grand jury, it was 22-year-old Samuel Ogashi that was behind the Danny Roberts account.
The following exchange from March 25th, 2022 appears in the indictment, and you should see it on your screen.
Totten going on to release text messages from the conversation between DeMay and Samuel Ogashi. Samuel Ogashi threatened to release the sexually
And so I'll just pause this here for a moment because I don't know if they're going to read the text messages. So these are coming, the Danny Roberts is from the Nigerians. And so again, what I thought was interesting that they said at the start of this video was that these 3 men purchased hacked social media accounts, which again just completely boggles my mind. So this we had seen before. Danny Roberts says, I have screenshot all your followers and tags. Can send this nudes to everyone and also send your nudes your family and friends until it goes viral. All you've got to do is to cooperate with me and I won't expose you. So this is where I was saying earlier, the way that this is written to me as an adult screams scammer. The broken English, the grammar, but to a young kid or young adult, this may be how they talk, or how, you know, they leave words out, or it's not always grammatically correct. To me, that is shady in itself, but again, I'm an adult. Then they go on to say, are you going to cooperate with me? Just pay me RN right now, and I won't expose you. Victim 1 says, how much? Danny Roberts responds, $1,000. Robin, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here. And the kitties will appreciate it as well. Your comments are disappearing? Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything either. Yes, Nurse Bev, I agree. You can tell that English isn't their first language. Hey, Team Brittany, how are you? It's been a while. You haven't been harassing me through email. Just playing. Yes.
explicit photo to DeMay's friends and family. This, unless DeMay paid him $1,000.
Jordan DeMay then paid Samuel Ogashi what he had, which was $300.
The indictment shows Samuel Ogashi continued to threaten DeMay, telling him, quote, goodbye and enjoy your miserable life.
And this is where, like, this is heartbreaking to me. That that Jordan was in a place, he was in a place that he thought this was the only way out of the situation. And the reason, I know I've said it before, but the reason I'm drawn to these stories is, some of you may not know, but my last boyfriend took his own life. And so I know, a lot of these, YouTube doesn't like the word and doesn't like people talking about it, but that's the problem. We need to talk about it because it happens every day, and people are affected by it every day, every minute, every second. And the fact that these scammers said goodbye, enjoy your miserable life, and Jordan responds, I'm KMS RN. I'm killing myself right now because of you. And then these assholes say, good, do that fast, or I'll make you do it. I swear to God.
DeMay responded, quote, I'm killing myself right now, and because of you. Totten says DeMay wasn't the only victim.
The indictment alleges that these 3 defendants targeted more than 100 people and that there were multiple other victims, both minors and adults.
Samuel Ogashi faces 4 charges. These include sexual exploitation of a minor resulting in death. Totten says the investigation is still ongoing, and he adds further charges could be made to other defendants. The DeMay family also released a statement today saying in part, quote, our family has been forever changed by this heinous crime, and our objective is to prevent another individual from being victimized. We urge parents to have discussions about this and have a plan for your children to reach out if it does happen to them. We have the full family statement on UpperMichiganSource.com and the TV6 and Fox UP mobile news app. Tomorrow on your TV6 Early News, we will bring you a follow-up about the interagency cooperation that made these charges possible. Cody?
All right. Thank you, Fanny, for those heartbreaking.
Okay, so we're going to stop that one there. And yes, for those of you who didn't know, my ex took his life in 2008. It was 15 years this past January. Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, yes, this is the next one. So this article, FBI victims' families speak out on sextortion ring charges. And this was again from May 3rd, 2023. Oh, I can skip the ad. Yay.
Sextortion is a horrible crime.
That's
It
really
can
loud. Sorry,
leave
y'all.
especially younger victims feeling ashamed and like they have nowhere to turn. To those who are engaging in this crime, we will travel the world to find you and hold you accountable. To those who use social media or have kids who do, be vigilant and take to heart the advice that we've shared. And to those who are victims of this crime, please, please reach out for help. You're not alone. I now want to introduce to you Jordan DeMay's family. We have with us Jordan's mother, Jennifer Buta, and his father, John DeMay. I've had the opportunity to meet with Jordan's family and to learn more about their son, who from everything I've learned was just an extraordinary person. I'm really so grateful for their courage and their resolve that Jordan's death would not be just a mere statistic, but would really be a wake-up call for everyone who hears his story. The parents are not going to talk with you about the case or the defendants, but they will tell you something now about their son and this experience. And with that, I want to turn it over to Jordan's mother, Jennifer, who has prepared a statement. Jennifer?
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Buta. I am Jordan DeMay's mom. I am here today with Jordan's dad, John, his stepmom, Jessica, and his stepdad, Chuck. As a family, we've waited for a moment to speak to everyone about Jordan. The last year without Jordan has seemed to pass by so quickly, and yet it was the longest 13 months of our lives. Our hearts will forever be broken with a huge part of our lives missing. Jordan was a son, a brother, a grandson, a friend, a student, a coworker, and a role model. He was the perfect mix of fun-loving and hardworking. He played hard, he loved hard, and he never held back. If you caught Jordan on a summer day, he'd likely be cruising in his car with the music up, taking in as much sun as he could at the beach and dancing without a care in the world. Jordan's smile could light up any room. Jordan's charm and beautiful smile were contagious, drawing people to him wherever he went and leaving a lasting impression on everyone he met. He wanted to connect and be everyone's friend, and he did just that. As parents, we cannot begin to imagine what Jordan went through that night and how scared he was because of this senseless act. When we were informed that Jordan was potentially a victim of an internet scam called Sextortion via Instagram, there was never a hesitation in our minds to share his story. We wanted everyone to be aware about Sextortion and have those tough conversations with their families, so if it did happen to them, they knew to talk to someone. Immediately, many families reached out to support us as their family had went through this. We received countless messages from families afterwards that their child was being pursued online, and because we shared Jordan's story, those children went to their parents for help. We want to thank our family, our friends, our community, and the many people near and far who have been there for us throughout this unimaginable time. We are humbled by the overwhelming support you have given to our families, and we have so much love for all of you. We are here today because of the outstanding efforts by multiple agencies that worked together on Jordan's case over the last year. We want to express our gratitude to the Marquette County Sheriff's Department, the Michigan State Police, Marquette Township Fire Department, Marquette City Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States Attorney's Office, and the Department of Justice. We also want to thank the Nigerian government and their law enforcement for their cooperation. We know that this was no small task, and your commitment to Jordan's case will make us forever grateful. Each and every person who touched this case needs to be commended for their dedication and resiliency that got us where we are today. Our focus going forward is to bring more awareness to children, young adults, and parents. Our family has forever been changed by this heinous crime, and our objective is to prevent another individual from being victimized. Kids, teenagers, young adults, and even adults can be a target of sextortion. We urge you to have discussions about this and have a plan for your children to reach out if it does happen to them. Jordan will never be forgotten. He will forever be in our hearts and will drive us forward to share his story and help others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Okay. So the next few articles, we're going to talk about those perpetrators involved in this. And then I am going to end on a video to honor Jordan DeMay. So this again is from May 3rd, 2023. So a lot of information started coming out at the beginning of May. And so that's why I believe I saw this story in my YouTube feed yesterday. And there is a photo of Jordan DeMay, 17. So again, this is Marquette, Michigan. 3 Nigerian men have been charged in U.S. federal court for being part of a countrywide sextortion ring. One of those incidents resulted in the death last year of Jordan DeMay, 17, of Marquette. In an online press conference Tuesday morning, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, Mark Taunton, talked about the indictments and how those targeted by such crimes can get help. The following is a press release from the U.S. Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, Mark Taunton, today announced the unsealing of a federal indictment charging 3 Nigerian men with sexually extorting numerous young men and teenage boys in the Western District of Michigan and across the United States, and charging one of them with causing the death of Jordan DeMay of Marquette, Michigan. On March 25th, 2002, 17-year-old DeMay was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His death prompted an investigation by the Marquette County Sheriff's Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which culminated in the indictment unsealed today. Sextortion is a horrible crime that can leave especially younger victims feeling ashamed with nowhere to turn. My heart goes out to the family of Jordan DeMay. Nothing can bring Jordan back, but my office is committed to securing justice and, alongside Jordan's family, sending an urgent warning so others can protect themselves and their families. We will travel the world to hold the perpetrators of these crimes accountable. Financial sextortion is a global crisis that impacts teens in our country and around the globe, said James A. Tarasca, special agent in charge of the FBI in Michigan. That's why the FBI is working hand in hand with our domestic and international law enforcement partners to prevent youth from becoming victims of this tragic crime and to hold those who target our teens in this manner accountable, no matter where in the world they may be. Our focus going forward is to bring more awareness to children, young adults, and parents. Our family has forever been changed by this heinous crime, and our objective is to prevent another individual from being victimized, said the DeMay family. Kids, teenagers, and even adults can be a target of sextortion. We urge you to have discussions about this and have a plan for your children to reach out if it does happen to them. The family added, Jordan will never be forgotten. He will forever be in our hearts and will drive us forward to share his story and help others. Overview of federal charges. The defendants, Samuel Ogashi, 22, Samson Ogashi, 20, our brother, and Ezekiel Ajahem Robert, 19, all of Lagos, Nigeria, are charged in a 4-count indictment. Count 1 charges Samuel Ogashi with sexual exploitation and attempted sexual exploitation of a minor, resulting in death in association with the death of Jordan DeMay. The charge carries a maximum penalty of life in prison and a statutory mandatory minimum of 30 years in prison. Count 2 charges all 3 men with conspiracy to sexually exploit minors by causing the minors to produce child pornographic images that the defendants then used to blackmail the minors. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 30 years in prison and a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison. Count 3 charges all 3 men with conspiracy to distribute child pornography for sending the child images to the minors, as well as their families and friends. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison and a mandatory minimum penalty of 5 years. Count 4 charges conspiracy to commit stalking through the internet for engaging in this extortion scheme as it relates to both minors and young adults. The charge has a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. All charges have provisions for fines, restitution, and unsupervised release after their release from prison. The additional allegations in the federal indictment. The grand jury alleges that the defendants bought, hacked social media accounts and used the accounts to pose as young women to lure teenage and young adult males into chats. One of the accounts used was an Instagram account bearing the username Danny Roberts, which communicated with Jordan DeMay shortly before his death. After initiating chat conversations with the victims, the defense simultaneously used Google and online applications to research information about the victims, including where they lived, where they went to school, where they worked, or who their family and friends were. The grand jury alleges that the defendants then solicited their victims to produce and send sexually explicit images of themselves. Once the defendants received the images, they created collages that included the image alongside other images of the victims from social media, including images of the victim's school, family, and friends. The defendants then threatened to disclose the collages to others, including the family, friends, and classmates of their victims via social media, unless the victims paid money. The grand jury alleges the defendants engaged in this extortion, an attempted extortion of more than 100 people. The grand jury alleges that on March 25th, 2022, after DeMay was induced to send a naked picture of himself, Samuel Ogashi used the Danny Roberts account to extort him. Danny Roberts: I have screenshot all your followers and tags can send this nudes to everyone, and also send your nudes to your family and friends until it goes viral. All you've got to do is cooperate with me and I won't expose you. Are you gonna cooperate with me? Just pay me RN right now, and I won't expose you. Jordan states how much. Danny Roberts, $1,000. After DeMay paid $300, Samuel Ogashi made more threats. Goodbye. Enjoy your miserable life. Jordan then states, I'm KMS RN because of you. Danny Roberts then says, good, do that fast or I'll make you do it, I swear to God. The grand jury alleges also on March 25th, 2022, after victim 2 was induced to send naked pictures of himself, the following message were exchanged with victim 2. Danny Roberts: pay me right now, $800, and I'll end this, deal or no deal. Victim 2 states, I don't have that kind of money. Danny Roberts: ha ha, I love this, ... Victim 2, I have $50 in Venmo and $100 cash. Danny Roberts: dude, now goodbye. Enjoy your miserable life. Victim number 2, why? Danny Roberts: I'll make this go viral. On March 26, 2022, the following messages were exchanged with victim 2. Danny Roberts: I will make you regret your life. I will make you commit suicide. I promise you, I swear. Coordination with Nigerian law enforcement. Earlier this year, agents from FBI Michigan traveled to Nigeria to conduct a cooperative investigation with Nigerian law enforcement officials. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, a Nigerian law enforcement agency, arrested Samuel Ogashi, Samson Ogashi, and Ezekiel Robert. The 3 men are facing extradition to the United States to face prosecution. The timeline for their extradition and a date for their appearance in the United States is unknown. The FBI referred information to the EFCC regarding 3 additional Nigerian males involved in the same sextortion ring. These individuals were arrested by the EFCC. The EFCC is one of Nigeria's national investigative agencies and is responsible for the investigation of all financial crimes, including extortion, fraud, money laundering, and corruption. The cooperation and assistance of the EFCC was essential in apprehending the defendants. U.S. Attorney Totten extends his appreciation and thanks the EFCC and the Nigerian authorities for their important partnership in this case. International cooperation is critical. In the last 2 years, this coordination has strengthened efforts connected with the extradition, deportation, and mutual legal or other assistance between Nigeria and the United States involving economic and financial crimes. We wish to express our sincere and immense appreciation to the EFCC and the cybercrime team for the cooperation and significant contribution toward the prevention and detection of transnational crimes. What is sextortion? Through various ruses and exploits, victims are lured to share compromising images or engage in compromising conversations. Girls and women are often extorted to produce more sexually explicit pictures, while boys and men are commonly extorted for money. In all cases, the perpetrators use embarrassment and shame with the threat of disclosure to leverage what they want. This extortion can cause enormous stress and crisis for victims. Mega Platforms Incorporated, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, has been a good partner in this investigation, providing important information in a timely manner. Quote, we want teens to have safe, positive experiences online, and we work to help prevent and stop criminals from targeting them with sextortion schemes. This includes cooperating with law enforcement to help protect vulnerable teens from these horrific crimes and bring their perpetrators to justice. In addition to the work we do to protect teens from this, we also help found NCMEC's Take It Down, which allows teens to stop the spread of their intimate images online. And then we kind of talked about what we can do. So with this, I'm just going to see, I think we're going to go right to my last slide because that article actually kind of summed up all the other ones I had. So the last video we're going to watch before I wrap this up is a video that goes over Jordan's case again. It's about 7 minutes long, but it kind of brings everything that we've talked about together, and then we'll wrap this up and call it a day. Oh, that's why. There we go. Oh, hang on, y'all.
Person who was just always there for.
Pause. I forgot to add it to the stream. Back up. There we go. Sorry about that.
Jordan DeMay is remembered by his family and friends as being kind, social, a friend to everyone, a devoted brother and son, the kind of person who was just always there for you. It's been over a year since Jordan died by suicide after falling victim to sextortion. His mom, Jennifer Buta, is still in a bit of shock as to what happened.
Had you had any idea that these conversations were happening, that he was involved in anything like this?
No. It's a pain Jennifer wants to prevent other families from ever feeling. Jordan's story has changed the conversation around social media, but her work is just beginning.
Right now, social media companies have no liability for anything that happens on their platforms. There's no safety, security features in place for minors.
And after what happened to Jordan, Jennifer is adamant about changing that. She's been talking with federal lawmakers, garnering support for the Kids Online Safety Act.
This bill would provide safety features for minors. It would eliminate target advertising to minors. It will give parent notifications of what their children are doing online, and also hold social media accountable for the things that are happening on their platform.
Exactly how would it do this? It would require social media companies to enable the strongest safeguards as the default, protecting minors' information, limiting who can contact a minor's profile, restrict location gathering, and provide parents tools and reports to supervise activity. The bipartisan bill was first introduced in 2022 and has just recently received support from Michigan U.S. Senator Gary Peters, a promising step to getting the legislation passed.
But unfortunately, part of social media companies, the way they make their money is to get people very engaged and stay on social media as long as they possibly can, and then provide material that sometimes is destructive. And so that's why it's important for us to put some guardrails around social media.
Senator Peters says one of the priorities is to make sure these companies aren't just focused on making money, but on the safety of the users. He says he's heard from families across Michigan, including Jordan's mom. And it's time for action. And this bill, he says, is a good place to start.
This legislation will allow parents, for example, to have kind of a way to monitor what is happening on the social media platform, what their children are actually seeing, what they're engaged. Also, we'll put some warnings if new individuals get on a platform who are not a friend or may not be an acquaintance, but may be somebody who has some harmful intent.
The bill.
Thank you, Lisa. I hope I did Jordan, proud, and that I gave a great presentation to honor him and all of those victims that have been exploited by the scammers. And I will be continuing to look into this to follow when these jerks get to the country, and hopefully they get their just desserts.
Has also received support from hundreds of advocacy and technology groups. It has the support, it has our kids at the center, and like Senator Peters said, Jennifer agrees it's a start.
I think it's really great that we have these groups behind it. It's not everything that I would love to see happen with a reform in social media, but it's a really great step forward to start making those changes.
And for Jennifer, it's a way to make sure what happened to Jordan means something.
In the most tragic of situations, Jordan's life is saving lives.
The stories and the memories of Jennifer Buta's son, Jordan DeMay, come without effort. Walking along the football field where he spent so much time, Jennifer smiles, talking about senior photos, track meets, and who he was as a person and as her son.
Jordan was a really social individual. He had many groups of friends. He was kind to everyone. He would be the kid who came into the room and flashed a smile or was dancing to the music, goofing off in the locker room. But he was also really close to his families and had a deep love for his sisters. We were very close. Yeah. Very close. Yeah.
Jennifer recalls traveling for sports together, listening to music, shopping, goofing off, just having conversations in the kitchen, at night before bed, doing the simple things together like aligning their schedules. It's those quiet moments, the ones you don't realize are so precious, she seems to miss the most.
I wish he were here today to celebrate his birthday and we could go to the beach like he would want to. I miss him every single day.
It's been over a year since Jordan died by suicide. She says life since that day has been overwhelming, emotional, nearly too much to comprehend.
A year ago, I said I would live life for Jordan. And we have to make something meaningful come of this horrible situation. And if we can save one life, then what happened to him means something.
She may never be able to quantify the lives Jordan's story saves. But the way the conversation has changed around sextortion, suicide, and social media, it's impossible to not feel the impact. And it solidifies the decision to be upfront and forward about what happened to Jordan.
Why? Why did you decide to just come forward with it rather than stay quiet?
If it could happen to Jordan, it could happen to anyone. I wanted to prevent any other child from being victimized and put that out there. As parents, if we didn't know about sextortion, we were certain that other parents didn't know about it either. And it was time to sit down and have a conversation.
And those conversations are happening here in the Upper Peninsula and across the country. Jennifer has heard from parents as far away as Georgia. She's felt pride knowing that parents are sitting down and engaging with their kids in new ways because of Jordan.
For me, as a mother of a little boy, I hadn't had a conversation like that with my son, but you bet I did as soon as I read your story and read about Jordan. And so I can only imagine there have been a lot of those kinds of moments where people have reached out. I mean, are you getting that kind of a response?
Definitely. We get messages all the time from parents. It definitely sparked conversations that parents would not have had with their children. And also let children know that if this did happen, it's okay to go to your parents and ask them for help in this situation.
It doesn't take away her loss. It doesn't fill the void, but it does keep her moving forward to see her son's legacy form into a meaningful and powerful force.
Okay, so that I thought was a great compilation of everything that I talked about today. And I will also be putting the links that I did not get to in the description. So if you want to read more about the perpetrators, there's also an article that Jordan's dad talked about Jordan in, and how he couldn't have prevented this. He didn't see this coming. And I believe him. So again, Jordan DeMay, a victim of sextortion, he received a text message, and 6 hours later, he was dead. So I hope that all of you have found this informative and eye-opening. I know it's a tough topic to talk about, but it's one that we need to talk about. It's something that is affecting our country, and I learned more than I thought I would looking at this. It was a 3-minute clip from Good Morning America that came across my YouTube feed, and I said, let me check this out. And when I looked more into it, I didn't realize that this had actually happened in March of 2022. And just now, the Nigerian perpetrators are being held accountable and are facing extradition. Well, I should say awaiting extradition to the United States. So thank you so much again for being here. I will see you probably tomorrow. If Bestie's live was like it was this morning, I think I'm going to do another case tomorrow, because her live this morning was boring AF. And I think these types of cases are more important. And so until then, all, I hope you have a great night. And until next time, I will see you all on the flip side.